Many strange noises, such as the bloop and the hum, have been heard around the world, leaving the listeners baffled. The bloop, once thought to be a sea creature larger than anything heard before, is now credited as being an iceberg scraping against the seafloor.
This strange noise, first recorded in 1997, emanated from deep in the Pacific Ocean.
However, there are dozens of other reported strange noises that remain unsolved. A few constantly heard by cities, unable to be identified, causing fear and torment in some residents. A mysterious noise coming from your car. It's scary that something could be broken and could result in a fatal accident if not fixed. Though how do you feel there's a constant unidentified noise in the distance? In a village in Yorkshire, the residents are plagued by a mysterious sound known as the hum, described as a deep, low noise heard day and night.
Across this part of West Yorkshire, where Halifax meets Bradford, something strange is going on. You can't see it, but many people say they can hear it, and they call it the hum. Out here on the streets, there's nothing to be heard. People who live here tell me you need to be inside the properties to actually experience this noise. A form of torture, they claim. One of those people, Anne Stanton, is at her wit's end and says the constant humming is making her ill.
I'm literally crying at night. You get up, just do what you have to do, go back, make a cup of tea, go back, try and get back off to sleep. And because you know it's there, it seems to get louder and louder and louder. And I've tried all rooms, I've even gone in the cellar. With the ears at the moment, it's like a very drony sound. That's the only way I can say it's a drone.
Homefield is surrounded by a number of agricultural and industrial plants, but pinpointing who's responsible for the humming sound has got Calderdale Council Cabinet member Scott Patient baffled.
We'd love to wave a magic wand and say, make it disappear overnight. Of course we would, we have detected the noise, we know it's there, no one's making this up, So yeah, it's right that we're trying to do what we can do. Bradford are being really good with us, and we're looking towards the West Yorkshire Combined Authority for some help on this as well.
Low frequency sound travels for miles, and it was used apparently as a form of torture. So imagine that in your own home every day, 7 days a week. It's not pleasant.
More than 400 people have now signed a petition calling for more to be done to get rid of the hum that's blighting so many lives. Ian White, BBC Look North, Homefield near Halifax.
Residents suffer with migraines and are unable to sleep. Others have resorted to more extreme measures, quitting their jobs due to lack of sleep, even selling their houses and moving away to get away from it. Few residents felt compelled to drive around at night, trying to find the source of the noise, pointing at things they believe might be the cause, such as local factories or a constantly running generator. However, the generator was shut off, yet the noise persisted. People started hearing it in 2019. The source has not been identified yet. Interestingly, not everyone who lives there is able to hear the noise. People all over the world have reported hearing a similar noise. It's not just an issue in one Yorkshire village. 2% of the population is able to hear the noise. People with a certain hearing sensitivity and awareness usually age between 55 and 70. Some suggest it is just normal background noise that some have a sensitivity to. Scientists theorize that isn't a noise at all, but the result of a low frequency electromagnetic radiation that can trick the brain into thinking there is a noise, with some deaf people even hearing the noise in tests. Known as the Frey effect, perhaps it could be a form of mass hysteria. If someone hears a certain noise and is driven crazy by it, continuously complaining to their neighbors about it, they could start to believe they hear the noise as well. Experts in the area insist the noise is real. This is a map of where people claim to hear the hum. The local council and environment agency have conducted noise surveys and a full investigation. However, they are unable to locate the source of the hum. They picked up low frequency vibration on their equipment, but were unable to find where it was coming from. One resident says, "I love my home, but some days I absolutely detest being in it. Feels like there's no happy space here anymore." waking up in the early morning to the hum, even hearing it through her pillow, feeling the vibration in her eardrums, calling it a never-ending cycle of torture. In Bournemouth, England, another man is subject to the hum and has spent thousands of dollars in his own money on private investigators to find the source, saying he was fearful to come back home from shopping, calling the noise soul-destroying. The hum in this city, according to a sound expert, is likely an internet booster hub. The residents are unable to control it and have to live with it. Since 2000, the World Health Organization has identified the hum as being a low-frequency noise as an environmental problem that can lead to various health issues. People questioning their sanity if the rumbling actually exists or is just a figment of their imagination. Some cities have dealt with the hum years longer than others. The noise persists. Hopefully it soon stops, or the source is located so the residents can enjoy peace and quiet and be able to relax in their own homes again. It is likely it may never be found. The mysterious noise causing brain damage in U.S. diplomats in Cuba is described as a bug-like buzzing, sometimes with a metallic grinding noise, causing pressure in the head and headaches and dizziness persistent enough to seek medical attention.
In the winter of 2016, diplomats Kate Husband and Doug Ferguson were working at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba. Their nights at home interrupted by a piercing noise coming from their backyard.
I'll just play it for you so you can hear.
It was a lot worse earlier. It was persistent, kind of at the same level all the time. Very, very loud. It's nothing you could sit with.
Kate, did anyone else in your neighborhood have this experience at their homes?
Yeah, on our right was another embassy family, and then the people on our left and across the street from us were both Canadian embassy employees. And in the end, all 4 households were diagnosed.
In a nearby neighborhood, Tina Onifer, who worked with Kate and Doug at the embassy, was washing dishes one night in March of 2017.
The kids were upstairs playing, and I was standing at the kitchen window, and all of a sudden I felt like I was being struck with something.
What was it like?
It was gripping. It was like I had been seized by some invisible hand, and I couldn't move.
Tina, Kate, and Doug didn't know it then, but they were among the first victims of a still unexplained phenomenon that has come to be known as Havana syndrome. What did the neurologist tell you about the changes in your brain?
He said, well, it's like you aged, 20, 25 years all at once.
How is your health today?
It's not easy to talk about our health because it's an invisible injury. It's 4.5 years of excruciating headaches. It's 4.5 years of stumbling, losing my balance, 4.5 years of vision degradation.
People don't understand what this kind of brain damage can do to you.
This started in December of 2016. The first victim was an experienced U.S. CIA agent who heard it outside his apartment. A month later, he experienced it again and visited the U.S. Embassy nurse. Some claim the noise is that of Indy's short-tailed cricket. Others aren't so sure. The agent informed his bosses, but at the same time, this seemed to be a one-time incident that they weren't even sure was credible. This particular case has not been investigated further until 2 other agents reported hearing the same noise months after it was first heard. The symptoms are similar to an ear injury, tinnitus, motor issues, headaches, dizziness, and vertigo. With more than one agent now hearing the noise, the leadership at the U.S. Embassy, now alarmed, made complaints to the Cuban government of a possible attack. Any wrongdoings was vehemently denied by the Cubans, and is still to this day. Even if the noise was not intentional, perhaps it could still be unknowingly caused by Cuba. The U.S. investigated both the Russians and Cubans, but found nothing. The only evidence that a noise was even heard were the accounts from 3 agents. Medical tests were run on these individuals confirming a serious injury. In March, all of the embassy staff was informed of the issue, causing more people to come forward saying they have experienced something similar, finding it was not exclusive to CIA agents, but other staff too, some having the symptoms but never hearing the associated noise. As more people began to experience it throughout the summer, the CIA sent a doctor to investigate, who became a victim as well. To try to solve the issue, a team of medical professionals gathered in Washington, D.C. They discussed that the victims did not only have inner ear injury symptoms, they also suffered sleeplessness, nausea, vision issues, fainting, cognitive issues, such as memory loss and inability to concentrate. These symptoms impacted the victims so severely that it impacted their ability to function in day-to-day life, which continues months after they were first exposed. The team concluded that these symptoms more closely represented a concussion. Investigation were unable to be continued as the CIA needed to remain secretive at the time. Despite their effort to conceal this was happening, the media became aware of the noise in August 2017. The government was worried about releasing any details. Only State Department officials were affected. However, their family members also experienced symptoms, as well as some Canadian officials. The University of Pennsylvania studied the victims. They were given MRI scans. However, several people believed that this wasn't an issue that could be identified in an MRI scan, but a psychological issue, perhaps mass hysteria. Over a year later, the U.S. was still no closer to finding the cause. Experts suggested a weapon emitting radio or electromagnetic waves was being used against the United States. This was tested, but no source of any possible waves were found. Finally, non-essential employees of the Havana embassy were sent home. 6 months later, the Canadians also removed their employees. 14 Canadians sued the government for $28 million for failing to address the issue sooner. The case has not reached a verdict. The case started to be reported outside of Cuba. First, a case of a United States employee working in China, as well as her mother, who was also in her apartment. This has not been confirmed by the U.S. government, still concerned enough to issue a travel advisory. U.S. staff in China were tested at the time, revealing 15 other possible victims, including one person's dog reportedly affected by coughing up blood and barking at unknown things. These people were flown back to the U.S. for medical testing. All but one was cleared. The doctors who examined the victims said their medical conclusions were understated by the U.S. government in an attempt to dull any possible concern caused by the problem in China. The researchers themselves were criticized for not considering a wider range of possibility and conducting more extensive investigations, using the issue to promote equipment they invented and being more concerned about the sellability of the story than the actual cause. The 15 victims in China were later studied by the same University of Pennsylvania team who originally examined the 40 cases in Cuba. They were looked at by an advanced brain imaging technology. Significantly less brain matter was found in the victims compared to healthy people, as well as issues in functional connectivity parts of the brains essential for processing sounds. These results prove that Havana syndrome is not a psychological issue. 4 years after the first reported case, the U.S. State Department said the investigation of the Havana syndrome was a top priority for them. In January 2020, the CIA released a report of the results of a comprehensive study of 1,000 cases, stating the symptoms of the majority of patients could be explained by environmental factors, undiagnosed medical conditions, or stress. However, that doesn't explain why the only people who have experienced this are American government employees working in foreign countries and their families. There are cases amongst these 1,000 that do not have any explainable cause as well. Both Trump and Biden administration officials, CIA analysts, and outside experts believe this is an attack orchestrated by Russia with technology we are not yet aware of. U.S. diplomats who were stationed in Cuba and China and experienced Havana syndrome said they were working on increasing cooperation of Russia and these countries, so they would have a motive to harm the workers. U.S. intelligence is unable to link the Havana syndrome to a foreign attack, ruling that possibility unlikely. One Redditor with no credibility says, "I speculate that people within our agencies do not know what exactly is happening, what the weapon is, and who is behind it. I do not think the attackers have been caught, and this may be the reason for lack of disclosure, but really, who knows?" Millions of people around the world have reported hearing what sounds like trumpets coming from the sky, starting in 2000 and continuing today. In 2014, this was recorded in Colorado. This is a 2015 incident from the Philippines. If you walked outside and heard a noise like this, you're probably going to be very alarmed and confused. Some of the cases have been proven to be hoaxes or had a rational cause found. However, many remain unexplainable. There are several possible explanations. Some people offer the explanation they could be tectonic plates moving, creating a sound loud enough to travel a long distance and appear to be coming from the sky. However, this usually creates a noise too low for humans to hear. When there is an earthquake, these noises can increase in pitch and be heard. Is it possible in all these instances there was an earthquake too small to feel but able to be heard? Scientists have been able to capture the sound an earthquake makes, but they are not similar. They should make a rolling or rushing sound similar to Darth Vader breathing, not something that sounds like Squidward trying to play his clarinet. An underwater microphone captured the noises of Japan's earthquake with a magnitude of 9. Some believe the noises could be explained by construction trains, also possible atmospheric pressure. Scientists studied this recording. They do not believe it is the result of seismic activity, but an atmospheric phenomenon. But this hasn't been proven yet. Similarly, the European Space Agency was able to use a satellite to capture the sounds of Earth's magnetic field, which sounds like this. Religious people are hopeful the sounds are angels playing trumpets, signaling to the second coming of Christ. 7 trumpets are supposed to be played to inform of the end of the world. However, these are not supposed to be literal trumpets, but metaphorical, actually being 7 tragedies leading to the apocalypse. We have certainly had a lot more than 7 tragedies by now, even a lot more than 7 wars. Perhaps they could be a sign of alien activity. There are multiple different sources of the noise. Considering how many have been recorded in multiple different countries, is it most likely that these are man-made? In some cases, the recorder discovered the source of the noise.
The sound of your source.
These videos can be easily created with only a simple knowledge of video editing. Several of them have been proven to be hoaxes. Is it possible that all these videos were either a hoax or have some rational explanation?
This whole phenomenon started with a video that was recorded in Kiev, Ukraine. It was just a person recording outside their window as they heard these strange noises. There are 2 things you need to remember about this video. First, it's the squeak sound that can be heard at around 1 minute and 13 seconds. Second is the bird sound that can be heard at around 2 minutes and 40 seconds. In many of the videos people have made depicting these noises, we can hear one of these sounds.
What's that noise?
Obviously, this is because a lot of these videos just rip the audio from the Kia video and put it into their video to fake it.
The Windsor hum occurring in Ontario, Canada is one of the more well-known cases of mysterious noise, and thankfully it has been solved. The city of Windsor is near Detroit, and the residents have been complaining of a noise for over a decade. During these years, numerous attempts have been made to establish the source of the noise. No one has been able to figure it out until recently. The winter hum has been negatively impacting the city of over 100,000 people and is described as a hum that varies in intensity and length, occurring in random intervals, sometimes only lingering for hours, other times it lasted for days.
I've been listening to it for a while. It gets very aggravating. I'm outside quite a bit because I'm a smoker and I listen to it constantly. In the house, my wife can hear it. I don't hear it as well, so I don't hear it well in the house, but there has been occasions that the bed on the second floor has actually vibrated because the rumbles are so bad. And the cat gets really strange at night and sometimes during the day. I don't know if that has anything to do with the rumbles, but we've been listening to it for quite some time.
Like a rumble of thunder in the distance, like a distant storm, that's one of the sounds. And sometimes it's just like a pulsation where the sound will come and you'll feel it coming in waves. And you'll get that sort of popping, that pressure in your ear. When I go to the West End, it's terrible. It is at its worst. If I get out of the car and I head somewhere over there, oh my gosh, the ear pressure is unbelievable. Ear pressure, head pressure, and like I'll run inside the building of where I've got to go. It's that loud. It's bizarre.
I've even described it as a fleet of diesel engines idling next to your home. And you get that revving feeling, you get that bass feeling, you get that pulsing noise, and it's very ominous. And that is enough to wake you up, and it's a very obvious noise. And it's very troublesome. People have reported that their windows are also shaking with that pulsing that's taking place. People that live 45 minutes away from Zug Island on a straight drive are being impacted. Not just one particular area in Windsor is being impacted, the west of Windsor is being impacted. To the south, South Windsor is being impacted. LaSalle is being impacted. Essex is being impacted. East Windsor is being impacted. South Colchester is being impacted. So various communities, not just in Windsor, but around Windsor, are also being impacted. This is a very serious issue.
Some of those who had to deal with the noise said they suffered from headaches, lack of sleep, and depression, and have moved away to escape it. One resident, Mike Rovos, told The Guardian in an interview that it can't be escaped. He was unable to enjoy working in his garden or being in the sun. The noise is always there no matter where in the city you go. He described the noise as being a thunder constantly repeating for hours or days. Neighbors chose to describe it in different ways, but all agree that it's deliberating and near possible to get used to. Some residents have spent thousands of hours trying to locate the source. Animals are said to be affected too, developing anxiety. Dogs have been crying and cats have refused to go outside. The winter hum has caused numerous conspiracy theories, such as the construction of secret tunnels or aliens. The most probable explanation is that it's caused by a blast furnace at Zug Island owned by U.S. Steel. Activists as well as publication companies have made attempts to contact U.S. Steel about the issue, but they have declined to comment. However, since the noise has stopped during the pandemic, when U.S. Steel significantly scaled back their operations in Zug Island, this has been accepted as being a source of the noise. The company was ordered to pay $80,000 to the state and $300,000 to an environmental project requiring them to demolish a crumbling ice rink and clean the area of contaminants. In November of 2021, the residents of Brooklyn Heights heard a mysterious high-pitched chirping sound. Oddly, the noise would change depending on where you were in the neighborhood. Some speculated the sound might be a car alarm. It went on for 3 weeks without stopping, one resident saying that it felt the noise could be a part of their lives forever.
It's sort of a high pitch.
They've got recordings of it, a sound some in this Brooklyn neighborhood compare to nails on a chalkboard.
It's sort of a whistling noise that crescendos into a high-pitched screech.
Others say a screaming dinosaur standing on top of this building, which according to an engineer, is the source of the problem.
The people of Brooklyn Heights finally came together to locate the source of the noise and hopefully put a stop to it. Many people complained to the city. Was it coming from construction, a nearby NYU dorm? The police got involved in the search. One resident flew a drone around to try to see if that could find anything. This led to nothing. Sound engineer Toby Podolsky joined the search. Before 3 a.m., when the city was quietest, he used equipment to try to locate where the noise was coming from, but he said, no matter where I went, the sound seemed to come from the opposite direction. The engineer's wife had suspicions that a neighbor was responsible for intentionally causing the noise to create discourse and annoyance. She was right. In this tenant's apartment was a pest repellent sound machine, specifically on the anti-rat setting, that seemed to work just as well as humans. He was informed his machine was torturing the residents of Brooklyn Heights. He said bullshit, and with the flip of a switch, the noise was finally stopped. User Always31776 posted to the West Virginia subreddit inquiring about a mysterious noise coming from the hills. They note that there were flashes of lightning, and specifically the noise was coming from a wooded area, describing it as metallic sounding, as it was coming from a radio. Another user comments, whatever you do, do not go looking for the weird noises in the woods at night. After user Valiant Via asked if there are any high voltage power lines nearby, as this could be an electrical phenomenon. Most commenters agreed that the noise was bizarre. OP updates saying they feel like an idiot. The noise was coming from a creek running through the woods where bullfrogs were calling. It was heard echoey and distorted. This sound, recorded in Oklahoma, was bothering residents for 8 weeks. Residents say it was non-stop, a nuisance, and loud, having disturbed their sleep.
It's out in the Oklahoma countryside where residents say they moved and expected quietness and peacefulness, but have been getting something far beyond the opposite. The sound residents in rural Oklahoma and Lincoln County say is driving them up the wall.
It is so loud and shrill. It's just this really annoying sound.
It's so loud, and so it's been going all day and all night. So it's really frustrating. It's really annoying.
So I've been driving around, going down the side streets to try to figure out where it's coming from. It's hard to pinpoint where it's coming from.
At this point, no one knows for sure what it is either, and they say it's tormented them to the point that they haven't been able to sleep.
It keeps waking me up at night. And that's why I'm I'm really upset about this.
It's through these rural Lincoln County trees here next to me where the source of the sound that's bothering several residents in this area is coming from. A well site that the Oklahoma Corporation Commission says has several issues. The sound bothering residents near Luther stemming from this oil well site near Pottawatomie Road in Covell.
Not all mysterious noises remain unexplained. For 2 months, the people in Oklahoma County were unaware of what was causing the noise that drove them crazy, before it was linked to a poorly maintained oil well. It is the sound of metal grinding together. Hopefully all noises discussed in this video can eventually be explained like this one so they can be stopped. 2 years ago, a mysterious noise was heard at an apartment complex. This baffled an investigator named Sawyer, who put on his best detective face trying to figure out what the noise was. Poster KJ Pet Sitters was able to identify the noise as being a garbage truck. Thankfully, most of the instances I discussed today have been explained, and the residents are now able to live in peace. Well, until the next mysterious noise begins.